We've got a bevy of MPs here in the studio. One of them, Peter Khalil, amongst other things, a special envoy for Social Cohesion. Thanks for your time. Were you down there in the Great Hall? What did you make of the events today?
I was. It was a very significant and historic event. The first time that King Charles has visited Australia as a sovereign, and I think the due respect was shown to him. It was a very significant and historic occasion.
Has it been a sort of growing admiration for someone who's clearly pretty stoic and hasn't had the fanfare of other royals as well?
I'd say so. It's hard to tell without seeing the polling or the research about what Australian views are. What's interesting about Charles is King Charles is that he has this sort of long-standing relationship with Australia. Went to Timbertop down in Victoria High School down there. You know, in his formative years, he's had a very long-standing relationship with this country over 17 or 18 visits. So I think Australians know him quite well. You know, Molly Meldrum even interviewed him on Countdown.
Yeah. Yep, he got mobbed on the beach once upon a time.
That's right.
He's probably seen more of Australia than me, to be honest. A bit jealous when I see him on all these trips, although a bit truncated some of these cancer treatment. All right, get into a bit of the politics. Get Dutton. Is that the Labor strategy when your own positive policies aren't working too well? This is on the front page of the Oz today.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that front page. But I would say this. The job of opposition leader is one of the hardest jobs in politics. It is the alternative Prime Minister of this country. Testing, stress testing, questioning, where are your policies? What are the details of the policies? What do you stand for? What do you believe in? That's fundamentally part of the job, and you need to be able to stand up and express those views. So, you know...
Normally a first-term government is more about what we've done rather than get scared about the opposition, though. Is there a sense?
No, there's no scared of the opposition. This is part of the job. He needs to be able to express and articulate what he stands for and what his vision is for Australia. And, you know, and having a crack at a journalist, I think there was some report where she kept asking him a question and he didn't like the question and started to attack the journalist and saying, "Oh, you're from the ABC, blah, blah." Mate, answer the question. Like, that's your job. You don't get on the front foot and attack a journalist. I don't.
Is that what you think will come out more during the campaign if Peter Dutton goes the journo, which he has from time to time? Well, I think we should.
It's not about. I'm never going to go you, Tom. You know,
you're allowed
except about Brisbane and Collingwood. But the point I'm making.
Firmer ground there.
Sorry, but the point I know. Congratulations. The point I'm making is this is his job, and frankly, the Prime Minister is under the microscope all the time. That's what happens when you're a public figure.
But is this your hope that when you see Peter Dutton, he's targeted a few journalists. He always says you're not being objective. He's said it a few times about ABC, SMH a couple as well, I think, as well. But is this what Labor's sort of banking on, that you think more of that emerges in a campaign environment and voters will be turned off him as a result? Because so far, they're okay with him. They're being turned off by Anthony Albanese.
Well, there's so many assumptions that you've made that I disagree with in your question. Right. That was a long question. Let me just answer it. Let me go back. The heat is on you, all of us, as members of Parliament, as special envoys, certainly as Prime Ministers and leaders of the opposition. That is part of the job. And if you can't take the heat, so to speak, get out of the kitchen.
So you think the campaign will show him up?
Well, campaigns are very, very magnified as far as the attention, the heat, the questioning around policies about detail. And, you know, that's part of what you've got to be able to deal with in this job.
OK. You didn't read The Australian. Not sure if you got to 60 Minutes. Boris Johnson says France would be a logical partner to join AUKUS. I know they can't do it overnight under the difficulties, but would that make sense to you as well?
Well, former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, you're referring to, I've seen some of the reports on that, is entitled to his views. And I think AUKUS, Australia, US and UK, in this trilateral security arrangement, there's been great and significant progress in this agreement, and I think that is beneficial to Australia in our defence capability. And France, of course, is a very important partner in the Indo-Pacific. It has a huge presence, and we are working with France on building up our defence coordination in the region. And whether it's France or whether it's Japan or South Korea, we're doing that work with all the partners. Now, as far as AUKUS goes, obviously, this is sharing of sensitive technologies.
Yeah, they'd have to want to do that, they'd have to agree.
Exactly. There's a discussion with the National Security Committee of Cabinet that they have to go through.
Final one, your office targeted again. This seems to be a ramping up of what so-called protesters are doing. They drilled a hole in the wall and put some sort of propellant through it. So this has happened to us a number of occasions, the vandalism and so on. If this was an escalation, Tom,
drilling a hole into the back door and pouring in a noxious substance using a fire extinguisher and a propellant with a Hamas kill symbol.
So something that
painted
either is flammable or
we don't know.
Substance you're not meant to breathe.
We don't know. The testing is being done.
Okay.
A hazmat team had to arrive. My staff opened the door that Monday morning. It was last Monday morning to unbreathable. It was unbreathable. They've had headaches. They had headaches for 24 hours, some longer. It is absolutely unacceptable. I've supported protests. This is not protest. Australians have a fundamental democratic right to protest as long as it's peaceful and it's respectful. But when you put people who are working, staffers who are working to help people with their immigration or their NDIS in a dangerous situation, and the residents that were living next door and the small businesses, it is not only legally unacceptable, it is morally repugnant. And it needed to be called out, and I called it out. It's unacceptable.
Your seat is one the Greens are targeting. Presumably there are more protesters there than compared to other seats. Do you think you're also being targeted because of your Egyptian lineage in any way?
Well, I don't know if that is the case. I certainly have a long history of understanding the region because my parents come from Egypt. My father, my grandfather, my uncles fought in the Egyptian army among many wars over the 20th century. I've always supported Palestinian self-determination and a two-state solution with Israel living side by side in peace. That is a moderate position that probably these people who are far more radical and extremist don't accept, and that's probably why they're, doing what they do.
Does it seem to you that at least part of this movement, not all of it in Australia, has tipped from being pro-Palestine to some of them purely anti-Israel, including visual support for even Hamas and Hezbollah?
Oh, it's
what's changed?
Disgraceful. I mean, I've seen the reports around some of the Hamas kill symbol, which is a red inverted triangle, which was painted on not just on my office, but many other offices, painting Hamas up, I think it was in Bondi the other day. People have got to understand this is a terrorist organisation. They've got to understand that expressions of ideological views or political views in a democracy should be peaceful, and that we do not accept those expressions through the form of violence. Unfortunately, there are groups, a small minority, because the vast majority of protests has been peaceful and we support it, but a small minority think it's a legitimate form of expression to use forms of violence.
Peter Khalil, appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.